What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 96 of Littleroot Lessons. As always, I'm your host, Carter Noble, joined by our fantastic co-host, Carl Wilkin. What's up, dude?
This is our first episode of the new year. That's what's up.
Yeah, it is. Happy New Year to everyone.
Yep.
It feels weird to say we're in 2022 already.
Yeah.
But, time flies when you're having fun, right?
For sure. So what are we doing today? I know we had something else originally planned. I don't know if we had told people that what we were originally looking to do today. But we've changed our mind. I think
maybe. We have officially kind of sort of started our draft league. We have all the divisions are set up. Now they're going to go through and set dates for draft league, like drafts for the divisions, everything. 68 players. That's a ton. I'm genuinely excited for as many players as we have.
So that's and I think that breaks for most players we've had in the draft league so far. I think that breaks it by just a little bit, but just.
I think our previous we capped at 64.
Yeah. This one is 2 groups of 18 and 2 groups of 16. This is also the first year we've done paid divisions, so there's things to play for if people want to do that.
We have money on the line.
Yeah, so there's 2 paid divisions, 2 free divisions. The 2 paid divisions are 16 players each. The 2 free divisions are 18 players each. It'll be interesting to see how the extra players...
I thought it was the other way around.
Nope. Free has
cool.
double 18, paid has double 16.
Cool. Glad you know what's going on.
It'll be interesting to see how much the extra 2 players in the free divisions affect draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know last season we had a lot of similar teams, kind of. So I'm interested to see if we'll have that same amount of similarities between all the teams, or if we'll see differences between the 18 groups and the 16 groups based on the fact that there's just more people picking Pokemon.
So, we have our tier list set up here for Season 5, BDSP Draft League. I have not actually really looked over this. I'm not participating in the Draft League. I have RTT going on. I have USPA getting ready to start up as well, so I'm playing in that. So I have a bunch of things going on personally, so I'm sitting this season out.
Yep.
So I haven't really been paying attention to everything going on in the background. Huge shout outs to Evan for putting all this together. He's a complete mastermind and knows everything about everything. So
he makes this easy for us.
Dude, he makes things look so good too.
Yeah.
I cannot overstate how good all of his graphics always look. His spreadsheet magic is absurd.
Yeah. So yeah, you said we have the tiers list up here. We have 4 tiers like we did last season. S, A, B, and C. Point system's the same situation we did last year. 100 points for S, 60 for A, 30 for B, 10 for C. So not a whole lot is changing how we draft. It's just the pool of mons we're picking from is a little bit different than when our last Sword and Shield draft.
Yep, and I mean, so Sword and Shield has there's 900 Pokemon basically in the national decks now. Granted, Sword and Shield doesn't have all those included, but what we do have now is just under 500, cutting out, of course, all your mythicals and all your legendaries, so it comes down to about 400, I think.
Something like that.
I can do the math real quick.
Yeah, we can quick math. 81, 177.
Where are you getting 81?
30 plus 51.
Oh.
All the numbers are there. You can't see it. You probably don't have to. Do you have the tier list up?
I
if
do,
you have the tier list up, you can just do the quick math at the top of the screen.
Yeah, I wasn't doing the math. I'm like, what? But Carl, that says 30. That doesn't say 81. What's going on?
81, 177, 268, something like that. 267.
480 is the official number.
Okay.
Granted, that does not include
That includes all the other C+ tier stuff I have off screen for everyone that are mods that don't see a lot of play.
That's stuff like your Caterpies and your Azurills, stuff that you're probably not going to see. What this does include, though, is your Rotom forms. Yep. Those are all individually put together. It doesn't include Wormadam forms. Those are separate, and I think that's fine. I don't think Wormadam is all that good anyway, so I think having to plan for potentially 3 Pokemon versus 1 is not that big of a deal when it comes to specifically Wormadam.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I think we're pretty okay with everything going on when we say that. So it comes out to about 475 Pokemon if you cut out 476 if you cut out the 4 Rotom forms. Mm-hmm. So I feel pretty confident with that number. That feels like a very, very good number. So where do you want to start, man? What do you want to talk about first here?
I want to hear what you think would be the number 1 overall pick out of the S tier, like out of overall, just number 1 pick.
So there's like looking at S tier, there's a lot of really, really good Pokemon. Things that stick out to me immediately are like Cresselia, Garchomp, the Lottie twins, Salamence is very interesting, Tyranitar, the dogs. I think all 3 dogs are very good as well. Arcanine, Togekiss. Like there's a ton of super viable Pokemon here in S. Mm-hmm. If it was me personally, I think if I had first overall, I would probably be taking either Scizor, Garchomp, or Raikou. And like those, it's really weird because like Scizor and Garchomp are 2 completely different Pokemon, obviously, but like what they do is pretty similar. It's just like Swords Dance punch things. I'm weak to Intimidate. Mm-hmm. Whereas Raikou, as we've seen on all the laddering videos, is like, all right, we can be choice specs, we can be support, we can be super offensive, we can be pure support. Like Raikou does a lot of really interesting things. Same with like Arcanine. So initially, my thought process is if I'm taking a Mon first overall, there is not a single week I don't feel comfortable bringing this.
Yeah,
it is a Mon that I am.
Should be.
I am 100% confident bringing this to every matchup. It is going to be viable. It is going to do something.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know if I can say that about Garchomp and Scizor for me overall. I think if my opponent has stuff like Sableye, Luxray, and like Clefable, let's say something like that combination of 3 Pokemon, all 3 of those threaten Garchomp in completely different ways. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I don't feel great about bringing it to a matchup when potentially just under half of my opponent's team all threaten it.
Yeah.
Whereas something with like Raikou is like, okay, sure, they can deal with offensive Raikou, but I'll just be fast and set screens.
Yeah, just be fast,
sure.
Pokey Raikou, or they're expecting screens and try to taunt me, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm just offensive specs. I'm just gonna blow you up.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, Raikou is on my short list of very high priority mons. I think any Intimidator in the S tier block is going to be just like a must get. Salamence, Gyarados, Arcanine, things like that.
I agree. I think of those, I probably like Gyarados the most. Just because like it has one really big weakness, but that weakness is mitigated by a ton of different things.
Yeah, you could
either having a ground type, having Lightning Rod. There's a ton of different things that you can do to pair with Gyarados to mitigate that weakness.
Yeah.
It's also base 81 speed, so like it's on the higher end of a speed tier. Being able to outspeed things like max speed Togekiss is probably not very common, but it is something that could exist.
Yeah, that's something you could do.
Pretty easily could outspeed Rotom forms depending on how they're built. You know, these are things that you see in VGC already, so it's like you can already implement these, and now that your opponent's not going to have all of them, you don't have to plan for every single one of them.
Exactly.
It's like, if Intimidate's not very good against your matchup, you have Moxie Dose.
Yep.
You just run people over instead.
Same thing works with Salamence. You have Moxie Salamence. Like, you can just run people over.
You get a redirector, set up a single dragon dance, and then sweep.
Arcanine gets to do the same exact thing. There's justified beat-up strategies in this format. You can do that. And
it's funny. I was thinking about that the other day because I ran into a team while laddering. It was like Lucario plus Arcanine. I'm just like, there's no beat up mon on my opponent's team, but that looks like what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I've actually played against a single beat up team in this format. And like a big part of that is like they lose their best beat up Pokemon in Whimsicott, but
yeah, having
I love Whimsicott. I miss it so much.
you need a very fast beat up mon for sure, and we don't really have that in this format.
No, not really. I think the fastest beat up mon off the top of my head is probably like Charizard. Let me look. I can actually.
I was about to say, I'm looking that up right now. What's the fastest beat up mon in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl?
I don't know. My internet is being super wonky today.
I can find out.
Thank you.
So the fastest beat up Pokemon is actually Weavile at base 125.
Oh yeah, duh. I forgot Weavile.
We
had
then
access
have
to it.
Dugtrio, Ambipom, Sneasel. Those are all above base 100.
I did not know Ambipom had it. That's really interesting.
Yeah, Ambipom's really, really cool. It's just Ambipom's really weird, man. Let me tell you that. Ambipom is really, really weird.
It has a lot of really cool things going for it.
Yeah.
The problem is Technician boosts beat up, right?
Yes, I think so.
So,
but it only I think it only boosts its beat up. Because the way beat up works is it's every healthy Pokemon attacks you. It uses their damage and their stats for the damage for calculations for beat up. So
I guess you could be like Skill Link.
I guess if you want to, yeah.
It doesn't seem very good.
Which I think Ambipom is A. Yeah, Ambipom is A, as is Weavile. And Dugtrio's a B tier, I think.
Dugtrio is C.
Oh, so there is a definite quick pickup for a beat up strategy if you wanted it. Not saying you need to be doing that in Draft League, but that's just something to put in the back of people's heads to make them think about, hey, they have the option for this. I need to plan for this too. And then you just don't bring it and you get them.
Girafarig also has access to beat up.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know that. Charizard, base 100. Houndoom at base 95. Primeape, so then not only do you have beat up, but you also have a Defiant Mon to be able to pair next to it.
Yep.
Let's see, what all gets access to Frost Breath now?
I think it's still
just the Frostlass.
Still just Frostlass, right? Nothing else gets it.
So I was trying to think about Anger Point. What all you can do with Anger Point?
It's literally Tauros Frostlass.
Yep. Primeape Frostlass, Camera Up Frostlass. Of those, I really like Tauros because it's your fastest one.
Yeah, Tauros just punches people.
Tauros is super, super underrated, man.
It's a good intimidator. It's just not the best intimidator.
Looking at the tier list here, it's a B tier Mon. And honestly, I think at B, this is super valuable.
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea of these tier lists, is you still want there to be good Pokemon in these lower tiers, because then it helps balance out the snake draft format that we do, where you go down and then back up from blast to first. So it helps balance that out of, if everyone takes really good S picks, the last person can take an S and then probably the best A. Or the best B, depending on what they're drafting. And this kind of just helps out along the way that way. We've talked about best picks in S tier. What's your worst pick in S tier? What's the worst thing that someone can pick at S tier right now?
Things I want to avoid at all costs in S tier. I think like Shuckle is pretty bad. But like I think having it in S and then having Blissey in A is just really going to force people not to do that.
Yeah, that's why we did that strictly, is just to keep that from being a thing.
Like you can. I don't recommend it.
We want you to pay the price for that one.
Yeah. Gigas and Slacking are also on here. Base stat of 670 is pretty absurd. Mm-hmm. Both are base 100 speed. Slacking, I believe, has more bulk than Gigas.
I think it's slightly more bulk, but
I think it's more HP but less like defenses.
I can tell you real quick.
It's really weird.
Yeah, if I remember right, it's something wonky.
Let's see. 110 versus 150 HP for Gigas. Both have 160 attack. 110 versus 100 defense. Slacking has 15 points in special attack, but its special defense is 65 versus Gigas is 110.
Yeah.
So Gigas definitely has the better defenses, but Slacking has 40 points in HP that Gigas doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like they're not bad, but they definitely require a very specific setup.
You need to do specific things. Like your team's got to be built a specific way to abuse these things.
And I think that the angle that those are going to pull you in are going to really just cut off a lot of diversity for your team. Like I think that the structure for them is going to pigeonhole you into basically one strategy every week, and you have to hope that it's good.
Yeah, that's kind of what. And without Dynamax and like Sword and Shield had, Regigigas just isn't as good. The big thing that Regigigas did is like even if they protect, if you don't pick up the knockout, you get to lower their speed with Max Strike.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're guaranteed to outspeed. Well, now people can just like slap a Choice Scarf on it and on whatever, and then blow up Gigas. So then you're forced to slap Choice Scarf on your Gigas, and there's no way out of it.
Yep, I did run into a Gigas team a while back, and they were Choice Scarf, and like immediately my first thought is, well, I'm just gonna burn it and make it completely no problem. Mm-hmm. And then they swapped it back in later and used Facade on me. I'm just like, I'm very dead. I understand.
They knew what the plan was there. They knew what the game plan was. They had it planned out.
Yep, I was not ready, and it showed.
Yeah. Regigigas and Slacking are on like my biggest list of just this is the bait pick. Like, yes, you can pick it, but you're sacrificing a lot to do so. Same thing with like Shuckle. Like, you can do the really busted thing, but then your draft is revolving around the really busted thing, which makes planning for you much easier. So you have to, you can't really shake it up if you're doing those types of things. And like we said,
the counter argument to that is it can just lead to free wins because your opponent's not able to beat it. Not every draft team is going to be capable of dealing with it.
I think there's much easier ways to deal with this stuff now than there was in Sword and Shield. Dynamax being a thing makes it very easy to abuse, whereas in this draft format, it's going to be super easy. It's like, I know my opponent's got Regigigas. I'm just going to make sure I have a plan for it. It's not that hard. The other couple baity things in here for S tier, I'm not the biggest fan of Torkoal in S tier.
I think Torkoal's fine.
Trick Room is
not
great. Like I can tell you from experience from just playing in just the doubles format for Diamond Shining Pearl in general, Trick Room is not great. This is a format
very
where
specific
really
Pokemon. Yeah, very specific Pokemon are able to deal with Trick Room, and like obviously there's the argument of Eruption is still very good, and like I'm not going to discredit that. I've definitely lost to Opponent set up Trick Room. I picked up a KO. They then brought in Torkoal, and I died. Like, that is something I've had happen. And when it's good, it's insane. I just don't know if I love it.
Yeah. Now, granted, the flip side of this is there's less weather changing in this format.
Mm-hmm.
There's only like a couple Prankster Mons that have access to both. I think Stabilize one of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a handful of rain setters, only a handful of sand. I think there's only one snow warning, right? It's just Obama snow.
Yes.
So like you're not seeing the drastic weather changes like we're used to seeing in Sword and Shield draft formats. However, I feel like
it's Obama snow and Snover. So
okay.
yes.
I also just think that Sun isn't as powerful when compared to some of the other things going on, like weather-wise. If I had to rank the weathers right now, Sand and Sun would be about tied.
Mm-hmm.
Rain would be miles ahead of everyone. And
then there's Snow.
And Hail's way down here in the back, nowhere even close to being anything.
Then there's Obama Snow.
Yeah, poor Obama Snow. Like, don't get me wrong, there's going to be a Hail team. I could see it, just like it's going to be coming up. But I feel like the rain is going to be the strongest weather in this league by far, and Sun is going to definitely struggle.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
The fact that both Garchomp and Tyranitar are in the same tier means that Sand is inherently weaker too.
Mm-hmm.
Your Sand setter, like outside of Tyranitar, is Hippowdon, who's also weak to ice. So you really don't want to be doing that.
And the other difference there is like Hippowdon doesn't get the special defense boost that Tyranitar does in Sand.
Yeah.
So like Tyranitar has an incremental additional boost to its special defense. So like you already look at its base 600 BST,
and then
you
just
add
on top of that
so much more. Yeah.
So it's like Sand doesn't have any great abusers. You have like Sand Force Gastrodon. I've seen that be a thing with Tyranitar.
That's cute.
That's really cute. But again, that's another S tier mon.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to double pick your S tiers, which it really hurts the rest of your team. So I feel like anything that's not a rain setter for weather is just a bait pick in this draft right now. Like,
I'm curious. Sand Rush pawns in this format are Sand Slash.
Yep.
Sand Veil Mons. There's actually quite a few of those.
Yeah, there's more of those than Sand Rush because Sand Rush wasn't widely spread out yet. We don't have Excadrill running around.
Let's see. Obviously, you have your big one in Garchomp. Gliscor is interesting. I'm not sure where it ended up.
Looks Gliscor like is a B.
Seems fine.
Yeah, like that's like a decent sand thing you could do there. Like that's like probably one of the easier ones you could do if you wanted to pick Tyranitar and then pick up Gliscor.
Donphin is also B.
Yeah.
But what I like about Gliscor next to Tyranitar is it gives you a ground immunity on switch in.
Mm-hmm.
So like having that incidental synergy there is obviously very good.
Yeah.
Golem, which I mean, sure. Cacturn. Cacturn's actually really interesting on sand teams as well. Because not only do you have Sand Veil, but you also have Water Absorb.
So that's interesting. Yeah, you could just like. It's also just like a ground resistance for Tyranitar if you're doing that. And Tyranitar helps answer the fire weakness of Cacturn.
It looks like Cacturn is... I'm not seeing it on here.
Is Cacturn a C? Cacturn might be a C.
I didn't see it in C.
Is it a B then?
Oh, it's in B. Yep. So like, if you want to load up on B tier mons, there's actually just like a decent sand team here in B alone because you have Hippowdon. You have Gliscor, you have like Cacturn. Like I think like those three are pretty decent together. It's just like Cacturn, Gliscor, and then like if you want to do T-Tar, that doesn't seem awful.
I would do T-Tar because then you have 3 mons weak to ice.
True. True.
The big thing there is like T-Tar, Cacturn are both weak to fighting. Now, granted, fighting's not going to be a super duper popular type for like Mons, but like
thank you, Urshifu not being legal.
Like it still exists. Like Hariyama's a thing. You have to respect Hariyama in this format.
I'm assuming. Where is Harry? Is it in A?
I think Hariyama's A. Yeah, Hariyama's A.
Yep, that seems fine.
Alongside
Hitmontop is also A.
Like you have to respect those Pokemon because the fighting types will just show up and just sweep through teams unintentionally because that's just your opponent didn't plan for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because who plans for fighting types? Like, you don't plan for psychic, you don't plan for fighting. Those are just not types you really see too terribly often, like offensively.
See, looking here, really the only thing that like threaten your fighting types up in S tier, you have of course Cresselia.
Togekiss.
You have Togekiss. You have Clefable.
Yeah, and then Azumarill.
And then Azu, yeah.
And that's it.
You have 4 things that have stab super effective hits against fighting types.
The Lottie twins.
Oh yeah, duh. The other premier psychic type in the format.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, looking for things that beat psychic types like Tyranitar.
That's
Shuckle, technically.
Oh, you're right. Technically Shuckle.
And Scizor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like those are the big like psychic weakness, like beats the psychic types, resists psychic, whatever, and it's just hard to plan for those types. Mm-hmm. You don't see them, so they make good draft picks for that reason. But on the flip side, sometimes they're just bad. Sometimes they just don't do anything. So we've talked about good picks. We've talked about bait picks. I want to hear sleeper picks for S tier before we move on to looking at the A tier.
S tier sleeper picks.
I have one, like immediate.
So I think my favorite sleeper, if I was forced to pick an S tier Mon, like mid like first, maybe second round, if not a little later. I really, really like Lucario.
Okay. Yeah, that was one of them on my list of just like, here's the sleeper Pokemon that's really good because it has access to certain things in this game that it doesn't have access to in Sword and Shield that everyone's used to.
I really like Smeargle too, but I think Smeargle kind of falls into that camp of everyone kind of expects to know what it does, but like at the same time you can just get people.
Yeah, like the Pokemon that has access to everything.
You can just tech this week and be like, oh, you have like Sableye and all these other things that are going to inflict. Like you have like Breloom and Sableye and stuff like that. I'm going to just spec and have Safeguard on Smeargle. Yeah. Like, these are things you can just do.
Yeah. My big sleeper pick is Tangrowth. Everyone's hating on grass types, saying there's no good grass types. You don't need to play grass types in this format. Tangrowth is the one grass type you probably want to play in out of S tier.
I would agree. Tangrowth is really good.
Sleep Powder, just really bulky. To that same extent, Breloom's really good, but Breloom's a known quantity. We see Breloom a ton.
I played Tangrowth on the lettering team that went up on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really good. I think I ran into like Breloom like twice, maybe once or twice.
And that's like the one thing you can't redirect.
And like past that, it's like, all right, cool. You have Discharge, cool, whatever. I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm going to swap into my ground type, and then Tangrowth is just going to look at you and be like, yeah, sure, I'll take that.
Yep.
Same with like Earthquakes, redirecting Bullet Punches from Scizor. Like it does a lot. Tangrowth is absurdly bulky for no reason.
Yep. Tangrowth is definitely my sleeper pick that if a lot of what I like is gone before it gets to my pick at number 6, I'm probably taking Tangrowth.
All right. Anything else on the S tier you want to touch on here?
Infernape's kind of weird at S. I feel like. I think it's only here because it's one of the fastest fake out mons next to Ambipom.
If I'm looking at this correctly, it's the only starter in S.
That is true. Yeah, I do know that one.
Most of the other ones got slapped here in A tier. It looks like.
Yep.
Except for Meganium, because it sucks.
Meganium's in C, Torterra's in B, Swampert, Typhlosion are also in B, Sceptile's also in B.
My boy Blaziken has earned its A, and I am so proud of it.
It's much better in a non-Dynamax format because your Protect actually means something now.
I agree.
Yeah. I think Infernape being an S might be a little iffy. I'm not too sure if it deserves to be here, but it's fine for right now. We'll figure it out. There's a whole lot of fire types in S, and I feel like that's a little overbalanced. But this is our first time playing this format, so we don't know what it's going to be. There's 4 in S.
Yeah.
And then 1, 2, 3, 4 more in A, and then everything else after that is kind of just like Moltres, Magmortar, Typhlosion.
Honestly, if you look at it, that's about all the playable fire types.
Yeah, are
all up in A.
That puts a high priority on fire types in the draft, so that's
obviously you can have success with things like Moltres and Magmortar and Rapidash.
Yeah.
Man, I wish this was like Blue Kaizo Rapidash where it had hypnosis.
Oh goodness,
it's so busted, man. Honestly, Rapidash isn't awful.
Yeah.
It's about the best thing I can say about it. It's not the worst Pokemon I've ever seen in my life.
Yep. So my advice for these newer players, looking at the tier list, fire types are a high priority. I would definitely prioritize, if you're looking to draft specific cores, draft your fire types and your fairy types first.
Mm-hmm. Because especially here, of course, fairies weren't introduced till Gen 6, so everything that's legal in this format was retconned to be fairy.
Yeah. So it's your Fables, your Togekiss, your Wigglytuffs, Granbull, Azumarill, things like that.
So there's definitely going to be less fairy types as opposed to everything else in this format. And as a result, I think, honestly, your dragons could be really good in this format. That's why, you see the Lotties and Salamence up in S.
Lotties, Garchomp, Dragonite, Salamence.
I saw Heatran and then the 3 dragons next to it. I didn't even look at Garchomp.
Yeah, Garchomp, Dragonite, Latios, Latias, Salamence. I don't know if there's any other dragons floating around.
Let's see. A tier, I don't see a single dragon. Kingdra.
There should be one, because Kingdra.
And I think that's it. I think that's all the dragons.
Yeah.
Because you had the 1 from Gen 1, the 1 from Gen 2, the 2 from Gen 3. Altaria. Where's Altaria?
Oh, Altaria. We know what. No one ever expects the Altaria.
It's down in C. There's a reason no one expects it, Carl.
Petition to make Aerodactyl dragon type. Fix Lance's team.
I'll approve it. Charizard should also be fire dragon.
Yes, hard agree. Make it weak to ground.
I agree.
Remove that 4 times rock weakness. We don't need to be weak to ice. Just make it weak to ground. And
you're not losing a ice weakness. It's still going to be neutral both ways. So
yeah, it's neutral, but it's not a weakness like it would be on a normal dragon type.
Mm-hmm.
Like most dragon types are 4 times.
I'm following.
Like most dragon types are 4 times weak. So
you're not weak to fairy.
You're not weak to fairy. You're not weak to ice.
Is there? Is the only fire dragon Turtonator?
Reshiram.
The
legend.
Yep.
So
is that seriously it?
That is seriously it. Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
So fire dragon's a very strong type, man.
I agree.
So you're only weak, I think, to like ground and dragon.
And rock.
Like that's it.
That sounds correct.
You're neutral to fairy. You're neutral to ice.
You're neutral to water.
You're 4 times resistant to fire. 4 times resistant to grass. Like, it's a real good typing for switch-ins for like standard fire, water, grass cores. It's really good.
I'm pulling up the calculator to make sure we didn't miss any. Ground rock dragon, resist bug, steel, electric, and fire. Grass are 4 times resist.
Yeah.
That's actually like a pretty decent typing.
Yeah, fire dragon's really good. That's why we don't see it too often. It's very strong. That's why the Mega Charizard was really good. Oh, okay. Speaking of Charizard, A tier.
Yep. What about it?
So, I feel like the A tier is where A tier should be the bulk of your team. Like we talked about
A's and B's for sure.
Like S tier is like I bring this to almost every match. Like unless there is some glaring thing my opponent has that's going to stop me from using my S tier, I bring my S tier. A's and B's I would kind of treat the same way. I would recommend getting decent A's and probably the best B's you can think of at the time. Mm-hmm. Use these picks to fill out your cores. A lot of the steel types are in A, if I remember right. If I remember right when I looked through the last time, there's a lot of the steel types in A that weren't already put in S.
We have Metagross, Magnezone,
Bronzong.
Yep.
Because this was another type that wasn't super duper widespread during
that looks like it. And up in S, we have Heatran.
And Scizor.
And Lucario.
The B tier steel types are Registeel, which I would.
They did our boy dirty.
We'll talk about the Reggies being in the B tier in a minute.
They did my boy dirty.
Aggron,
Probopass,
which you always forget is a steel type. Like you don't think about it being a steel type until you draft it. I think that's it.
Let's see.
And then the steel types in C are like Steelix.
I'm not seeing a single one more down here in B tier.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's another one. I think that was it. So like a lot, there's not very many good steel types. There's okay steel types, like for resistances. Steel's one of the best defensive types in the game, and the fact that there's only like a small handful means that everyone's going to be fighting over them.
Mm-hmm. So really, like your fantasy core is going to be pretty hard to actually put together. I feel like.
If you can get a strong fantasy core.
I honestly feel like Fairy Steel should probably be your priority. And then just like have a water type that can have ice coverage, which is basically every single one of them.
Yeah. It's going to be real hard. I don't think we're going to see many fantasy cores. When we talked about the draft league last time, we mentioned like drafting fantasy cores, one of the things that Evan like pushes on people to do first. I don't think you're going to be able to do that in this gen. If you do, it's because you got a back-to-back somewhere and then picked up a one on the way back out.
It looks like I'm just looking. Fully evolved water types that can't learn Ice Beam. There are 3.
Okay.
After a quick, this is back in. This is 2013, so this would have been Gen 5. So this might be a little outdated at this point, but there's at this point 3: Keldeo, Seismitoad, and Rotom Wash.
Fun fact: 2 of those aren't in this game.
True, and the third one just has Rotom Frost.
Yeah, you just play Rotom Frost instead. So yeah, like I think getting your Fire, Water, Grass core is what you're prioritizing now in this draft for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Grab a good Fire, Grass type. The water types are plentiful. Don't worry about grabbing a water type early. You can grab whatever A or B straggler water type to fit your team will be there. Fire types and grass types I feel like are going to be the first things to prioritize unless you are forsaking those cores and doing something really powerful like Raikou plus like something else, or like grabbing Discquake stuff. Speaking of Discquake, poor Zapdos. I think Zapdos is a little high.
Is it A?
Yeah.
I think that's a little high. But
yeah, right?
But like I think in B it's too low.
Exactly. Like I wish there was like a A and a half.
Just like A- tier.
Yeah.
And just like literally just move Zapdos there.
It's 45 points instead of 60.
Yep. Honestly, if you do that, you can move like it.
If we ever did that, you can move like it, Empoleon, Blastoise, Dusknoir, Rotom can probably go down in there, things like that. But Discquake is something that we've seen a little bit of so far in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl VGC, and it's probably one of the more powerful combos in this Draft League format, I feel like. It's something that's easy to pair together, like on the surface, especially since every Rotom is going to be separate.
Agreed.
So it's just finding a ground type with Earthquake is the thing you have to do. And like we mentioned earlier, you have like Hippowdon, or Garchomp, or Rhyperior's an option, Mamoswine, things like that.
I'm actually curious what ground types can't learn Earthquake. I'm sure there's actually quite a few. Fun fact, Wormadam can learn Earthquake.
Yeah, because there's a bug ground version, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's weird.
I did not realize.
Not like it's going to do a ton of damage with it.
No,
but
it is. 79 attack is like not awful.
Yeah.
It's more like your base 36 speed and your base 60 HP that are the problem. But, it's not awful.
Is there a Discharge Mon that has immune to ground but also Trick Room?
Discharge, Trick Room. The only Mon that has access to both of those moves is the Porygon line.
Ah, neat.
That actually is kind of neat.
Didn't know that. Now I do. Yeah, I think the A tier is fairly balanced. It's right where we want it. It's a real good. It's got a good selection. There's some good ones. There's some not so good ones, but having some of this stuff in here makes a lot of sense.
What is your like super sleeper pick here in A? If you had to pick one off the top of your pick.
Parasect. 100%. Snap it off. If I don't get Tangrowth, Parasect. Every time, never fails.
Interesting.
Because it does the same exact thing Tangrowth does. It's good for the same exact reasons.
Except, you're much weaker to fire, which sure.
But you're immune to water.
That is true.
You get to dry skin things. Which it means you're a better pairing with your fire type. So you can always just pivot in and pivot out and whatnot. Parasect is my sleeper A pick. Like if I don't get Tangrowth and I need a grass type, I'm probably aiming for Parasect.
I legitimately didn't even think of Parasect as a grass type. I know that sounds bad, but for the longest time I just see it as just like this super frail bug that dies to everything that comes at it. Well, that's fine because you can just slap a focus sash on it and you're fine.
Exactly. My other option is Umbreon. I think Umbreon is super underrated in A. I've been playing with Umbreon on the ladder, and things just can't deal with it.
I seriously think Feraligatr is super underrated.
That's also on my list of underrated Amons is Feraligatr.
Dude, it hits so hard. It's absurd how hard this thing can hit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I think that's basically covering all the A tiers here. Anything else you want to touch on before we hit the B tier?
Gardevoir's busted.
Stop it. Nope.
Gardevoir is busted.
Nope. I don't know who you're talking about.
Scarf Guardy is very scary. You have to have Fake Out to deal with it. Otherwise, it just does so much damage and just hurts. It's one of those sneaky fairy types that no one remembers until it's too late. And they hit you with that stab dazzling gleam. And just you watch your HP just disappear. Okay. Moving on to the Bs. I want to talk about these Reggies. These poor Reggies.
I feel so bad for them.
I don't know if you've beaten the game yet or if you've tried to do this. You cannot get the normal ability Reggies. They're only hidden ability.
Yep.
So, Regice and Regirock, it's not that big a deal. It's whatever, right? No big deal. Not the end of the world. Registeel got shafted. Literally. You know how good light metal is?
Awful.
It's not.
Atrocious.
That's the problem. Heavy Slam is something you want to use. Can't use it. You took one of the best moves away from Registeel. It's gone. Forever. That's the worst thing about it, is just poor Registeel got the worst end of this deal.
It's so bad, man. The other thing that's really bad for Regirock specifically is the removal of Assault Vest and Weakness Policy.
Yeah.
Which, trust me, I'm glad Weakness Policy is not in this game. I miss Assault Vest more than I am willing to admit, though. Because especially playing in RTT where Weakness Policy is banned, it's just every week it's all right, I'm going to slap Life Orb on something, I'm going to slap Assault Vest on something. Cool.
Yeah. Good job.
I have 2 items already locked in. But man.
So I think of the ones in B, I think Regice is the best. Hands down. It's not even a question of what's good, what's bad, or anything. Regice is the best one available.
I honestly think all 3 are fine. I think, does Regice have the most weaknesses though?
Regice, being in pure ice, has the most weaknesses, but it also has the best ability of the 3.
It's Ice Body?
Yes.
They need to give Regirock Solid Rock.
Yeah, that should have been the hidden ability. Instead, we have Sturdy, which...
It's literally useless.
It means squat.
And they should have made Registeel have either Heavy Metal or...
Should have been Heavy Metal. 100% instead of Light Metal, Heavy Metal. Because then you're not turning off Heavy Slam. You have essentially made Heavy Slam useless. It's one of the only physical steel moves that's actually good on Registeel, because you don't want to invest in attack, so you need more base power, and Registeel's really heavy to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So having its weight means that Heavy Slam is worse than Iron Head, And so you're forced to run Flash Cannon special stuff, which opens you up to Snarl spam.
So, it was very, very early on in the format. I played a Reggie Steele team, and Reggie Steele felt fine on that team. Like, it felt very okay. I think you could probably do, like, substitute curse things if you really wanted to.
Not without Clear Body, I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. Setting up a substitute means you're immune to Intimidate, so like that's
but you're not immune to Snarl. Mm-hmm. And like I said, you want to run.
But if you're
special, you're not going to want to run Ironhead.
I mean, it depends. If you're doing like curse things, then yeah, Ironhead is clearly superior. But I don't know.
You probably want to be doing like Amnesia and Iron Defense things instead of curse, which means
we don't have body press anymore, right?
No. The only body press mons I think are Probopass and Regigigas.
Actually, yes. That's it.
See, I know my stuff.
Fun fact: Probopass has Sand Force.
Yeah, like I said, there's some sand abusers out there. You can build a good team for sand. It's just not going to be what you expecting it to be. It's not going to look like Garchomp Tyranitar like we see in VGC all the time. It's going to be like Hippowdon Probopass or Hippowdon Cacturn doing stuff like that.
So Probopass can get to 216 defense.
Neat.
That's pretty decent. And dude, honestly, Probopass has really good typing. Okay, let me rephrase that. Its typing is absolute garbage.
Time out.
Its typing is absolute garbage. Its bulk is obviously absurd. 145 defense, 150 defense, special defense, 60 HP. I could take it or leave it. But the thing that's unique about it is it's like very primarily a special attacker, being 75 versus 55 special, 55 attack. So like you don't typically see a rock steel type that's a special attacker, let alone a defensive wall that's also a special attacker. I think the other one that comes to mind is like Bastiodon. Which
that's the only other one.
It's 52 versus 47 attack versus special attack. Your bulk is a little better on Bastiodon. You get 60 HP, which is the exact same. 168 defense and 138 special defense. So like, Bastiodon is fine.
But
I really wish Probopass. I really wish Probopass had Levitate.
That would be nuts.
I think if you could remove the 4x weakness to ground, I think Probopass would be absurd.
Oh goodness, don't. So there's a reason Probopass is already in B. I've watched Evan play with it, and I told him if this thing is any lower than B, you're doing it a disservice, because he got it at C in his league, and it has been amazing. Other notable things in C, I think Torterra being in B is kind of cool. That's just like a good solid grass type to pick up if you need a grass type. Same thing with like Meganium in C. It's just like if you need a grass type, they're fine. Roserade being in B, I think is a little low actually. Roserade's as a decent sleep powder mon. Like it's got decent stats. It's got technician, things like that. You might be able to do more with it, but I think it's a solid B pickup if you need it. Cradilly is another solid B Pokemon that you could play on your sand team. Like, it gets the sand boost to its special defense. You don't have Assault Vest anymore, but it really needs that special defense boost. Playing it alongside sand, being able to be Storm Drain and suck away water type attacks from Hippowdon or whoever you're playing with is just really, really good. Other hidden gems in here, I think Perugly's is a hidden tech in here. Granbull's hidden tech. Quagsire's probably decent in this format.
Absol's another one that's really interesting. You have a bunch of really unique abilities with Justified and Super Luck.
Yeah.
Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee are both interesting. I obviously prefer Top, but both of those can do things.
Luminion.
It's a mon that exists, yes.
Tailwind. Storm Drain.
Why does it get Tailwind? That's so dumb.
I don't know. It just does. Tailwind and Storm Drain, man. This thing also has access to Swift Swim.
Crawdaunt has adaptability, can get hit really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Kingler has sheer force and can hit really hard.
Toxicroak's kind of cool. Poison Fighting's a decent typing.
Having a water immunity with dry skin's also interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, you gain a weakness to fire, but you can mitigate that.
That's easy. That's easy to work around. We talked about Kabutops last week. When we were doing our like team reviews. Kabutops are just a really good Rainmon. So if you're like take Pelipper out of A, grab Kabutops out of B, you have budget Rain like right there ready to go.
Or even just like Sableye, and then like you have a Mon that also just has a bunch of text against a ton of different teams as well.
Yeah.
I think if you were trying to do rain things, like the choice between Pelipper and Sableye is really interesting.
Yeah, like those are both great options. Like, granted, you don't want to double up on weaknesses with Politoed. That's why like Pelipper's better in my opinion. Granted, you're still weak to Electric with both of those Mons, but Pelipper not being weak to Grass is kind of important, especially since Kabutops is 4 times weak to Grass.
And like if you are pairing it next to Kabutops, having a ground immunity with Pelipper is really interesting as well.
Yeah. Now, granted, these are all contingent on the fact that you're not getting Ludicolo or Kingdra at this point in the game, or Floatzel, for that matter. Floatzel is also just a hidden Swift Swimmer that's really good.
There's like a billion Swift Swimmers that exist. Like, honestly, I think that's one thing that Pokemon should probably do is like cut back on the number of Swift Swim abusers and give other weather abusers like some time to shine. I definitely think that there are way too many Swift Swim abusers. It's just like, oh, here's a water type. What ability do we want to get it? Water Veil or Swift Swim, guys? Flip a coin.
Swift Swim every time, never fails. It's because they Rain doesn't do anything. Like Rain needs the abundance of types because all the Rain setters are also weak. But Sun has grass types, which can use Chlorophyll, which answer the one thing that beats Sun, which is the Rain things. Like, Rain got beat up because the Swift Swimmers are just all water types but the Sun abusers are in both fire and grass.
So I looked it up just to see.
There's a lot.
There's 5 Pokemon that have Swift Swim and Water Veil.
Goodness. So speaking of C tiers, what's your favorite C tier? What's your number one C tier gonna pick here?
Man, there's some really, really cool ones that really stick out to me. Like honestly, your C tier mons are all based on like what you're really needing to round out your team.
Yeah.
So like you have things like Exploud, which can be like a decent attacker if you need to. We talked about Floatzel earlier as like a Swift Swim abuser that you can do things there with. You have like Pikachu down here on the bottom end, so you can have like Focus Sash plus Lightning Rod, like if that's something you're interested in. So it really just depends on like what you as a player are needing to round out your team. There's Intimidators here in like Masquerain. You have Tangela, which is just like super budget Tangrowth in this format. Arbok is really interesting as well as like another Intimidator. It's like it's kind of hard to narrow down to just like one.
Yeah, right.
I'm curious what you're thinking here when it comes to the C tiers.
So if I had to pick one C tier, I'm probably picking Spiritomb.
Oh, Spiritomb's so good.
Spiritomb is really, really good in this format, mainly due to the fact that there's just a lack of fairy type coverage. So your one big weakness isn't a weakness when very few players have it, and it shows up better in draft leagues, being able to snarl and do these bulky damage mitigation things that like Umbreon does. You're also a ghost type, so you're immune to fighting and you're immune to normal, so that's just always an upside. You have 2 good immunities. Well, you have technically 3 good immunities in ghost, fighting, and psychic. And yeah. Yeah, ghost fighting normal psychic.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're like, you have real good immunities. Ghost is always a good stab type just because it hits a lot of stuff for neutral damage.
No, you're not immune to ghost.
No, you're not immune to ghost. Normal, dark, normal, fighting, and psychic.
Yeah.
Like,
there we go.
There we go. It's like, it's trying to list out what everything's immune to there without actually looking at it. It's hard.
I agree.
And like we said, your only real weakness is fairy. You're
actually only weakness.
Like,
yeah.
And when there's only a handful of Pokemon that have that, you don't have a weakness. Now, granted, you do get hit for neutral damage by Ghost and some other types that are kind of scary, but having no real weakness in a draft format and actually decent stats behind it, I feel like makes this one of the best C tier picks.
I agree.
I could definitely see someone just like foregoing their S tier early because everyone's going to be picking S tiers early, grabbing a real good B and a C like right off the bat to help fill out their teams. Like, because if you think your if your S pick's not going to get picked early, like,
you can just wait.
You can wait.
Yeah.
And then you can grab the best C's and the best B's, and you have a good solid pick for when you go do your S, and you can get like Snorlax or Entei or whatever it ends up being.
So that's really like one of the big things I enjoy about RTT is it's just like all these super powerful Pokemon are all gone. So like some of your best picks in that format are like Torracat, which like is not a bad Pokemon by any means, especially when it comes to like Draft League stuff. And like, my all-star on my team is like Kingler and Delibird. Like Pokemon that in the league like this, you're just not gonna see, man.
Yeah.
They're so undraftable that like they have a billion weaknesses. They don't really do anything interesting, but you add in Hustle and Sheer Force and Hyper Cutter, and like they have really good abilities all of a sudden, and like the tools that they provide are really good.
Yeah.
That's why I really like these under the radar Pokemon that are just not widely played and people don't know really what they do. And that's one of the real reasons I've been liking the matches I played in that format. It's just like, okay, I kind of have to look up like everything, because if I see this in normal team preview, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna dismiss it because it doesn't do anything. It's
exactly.
Like,
that's the cool
I'm
part
learning
about it.
so much more about certain Pokemon. It's funny. Like this past week I played against Scyther and it came in. I'm just like, okay, that's kind of scary. It has like Stab Airstream. Should I be worried about this? And then I one-shot it.
Yeah, like Scyther is definitely one of those Pokemons like, oh, what does this thing do? And then it just dies because it's so frail.
Yep.
Any other C tiers you want to talk about? There's some real cool stuff here, but I think we hit hit all the big stuff.
Skunk Tank can be pretty sweet. Whiscash if you're needing like another Discquake abuser. Like Whiscash fits that pill pretty okay. Same with like Hammerupt. Yeah, there's some really interesting mons, but I think we kind of touched on it. I think we touched on it enough for me to feel satisfied.
To be happy. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So you ready to get out of here, bud?
I think so, man. I've had pretty today's been a day.
Yeah.
So
no one will ever actually like see what happened, but we had a slight recording hiccup.
We had to pause for about 40 minutes because my system crashed, and then it like once it came back up, it wasn't picking up my mic anymore.
Yeah. So that was fun. But you all
should have
see
been
that.
An hour and just over an hour recording is taking almost 2 hours now.
Yep.
So whatever. I think that's it, man.
Okay.
I've had a lot of fun today.
Let's get out of here.
I think so. So as always, everyone, make sure you like the video if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and give us that 5-star rating. It really does help us out.
I forgot that was a thing.
Yep, it just started this week, I think. this past week.
I don't know.
It's a really new feature. So yeah, go ahead and drop us some stars. Tell us why we're wonderful. Help push us on that algorithm as well. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff for us. If you're not listening on YouTube, go do that for us as well. Follow us on Twitter at LR Lessons, myself at Mr. Missouri 25, Carlos at Musical VGC. Follow us on Twitch at Musical, and I'm at Mr. Missouri 25 on there as well.
You stream a lot more than I do.
I've been trying to definitely stream a lot more here lately. The last couple of weeks have been a lot because of the holidays and traveling and everything else. So it hasn't been as much as I would like to, but
this
been
also,
trying to stream
this also is a
3
good
or 4
segue
days a week.
About the new YouTube schedule with everything is like you're going to be streaming more. We're going to be uploading a little bit less on YouTube. Not that we're taking anything away, but it's going to be easier for us to dial back and deliver better content if we're not frantically uploading a video every single day.
Yep. So that's the plan there, and that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks for sure. So be on the lookout for all that. Let's see. Come and join us on Discord.
Yep.
That's always down in the show notes as well. Our Discord community is great. I love every single one of them. That's where you're going to be able to catch all the season 5 of the Draft League going on there. Let's see. Check out the website. Yep. And while you're there, go check out the merch store. This is where you can find some fantastic pieces of merchandise. We have some new stuff coming down the line here in the next month or so, hopefully. Really excited about all that.
Yep. Barring any weird
technical issues,
any kickbacks from them. Yeah, it'll be good to go.
We're getting some more stuff worked on, and I'm really excited for all that. I think that's everything.
Twitter, Twitch, Discord, YouTube, Anchor support.
Yep, that's all you. Ship it.
So for as little as $1 a month or 25 cents an episode, you can support us on Anchor. It helps us keep the lights on, helps me pay for all this equipment to help edit and record things and all that fun stuff. I think the upper limit is like $10 if you're really interested in wanting to do that. $20.
I think it's 20.
So 1, 5, 10, 20 probably.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the tiers. I know we have one $10 subscriber. Beppis in this server has been sending us $10 every month for a very long while. A very long while.
Feels like forever. Greatly appreciated every month. Thank you so much.
We still don't have AdSense because when they merged, they ended their ad
removed
program.
it from everyone.
And now you have to go on a wait list and do all that jazz. So we're on the wait list. Been on the wait list for a while. Come on, Anchor. Yep. Get your stuff together. We'll go find a different platform if that's what it takes. I'm serious. Anchor gets on my nerves sometimes.
I remember when we were still doing the Magic podcast, we were going to do SoundCloud, and then we realized that you can only have like 4 gigs of stuff uploaded to your SoundCloud at once.
Yeah.
It's like that's like 3 episodes.
Exactly.
I'm like, I do not feel like fighting with that, and I don't feel like paying $100 to be able to up that limit.
Exactly.
So, whatever, man.
There's other free platforms
that's everything.
for us. We'll find a new home if we need to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. That's all we got.
All right, let's get out of here. So, have a fantastic day, everyone. We'll see you next week. Yeah. Good luck on everyone's draft. What?
We'll probably be talking Series 11. Hopefully Series 12.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah,
maybe Series
most
12.
likely Series 11. Maybe Series 12. Who knows? We'll figure it out next week.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Have a good one. We'll see you later. Peace.